Welcome in to a first round fulfilled and finished. And the the SEC and the Big Ten are owning this tournament. I'm Matt Norlander. That is Kyle Boone. We appreciate you if you're watching us live on YouTube in real time. Hop in that chat, vote on that poll. We're going to go for, well, I don't know how long we're going to go for, but my prediction, my hope, 30 to 35. Promise not to go too long. We got more games to get to tomorrow. I've got to drive back to Providence tomorrow. And we love doing these late night recap shows for you. If you are watching or listening after the fact at some point on Saturday morning, afternoon, whenever, we appreciate you. Let's dive right in here. Big picture stuff off of Friday. The Big Ten is 8-0. And if you're watching live, Michigan State is just about to beat Bryant, and Oregon is eviscerating Liberty. So the Big Ten will be 8-0. That will set a record. There's never been a conference that has ever won that many games and lost 0 in the first round. The SEC has also won 8. It has lost 6. So 6 of its 14 teams that got in, they've been booted. But that combined 16 teams, that is half the field, and it's the most represented in the tournament in the start of the second round by 2 conferences ever. The ACC, as somewhat expected, at a pratfall. Only 1 team in the second round for the first time ever. We've had a 32 team. We've had 32 teams play in the NCAA tournament as far back as 1975. Duke is the only one standing. This is the first time ever. The ACC has only had 1 of the final 32 in the big dance. We've got some double-digit seeds that have moved on. In the West specifically, number 10 Arkansas, number 11 Drake, and number 12 Colorado State were all able to bump through. We do not have a lot of low major single bid league representation left in this tournament. Unfortunately or unfortunately for me, it's unfortunately. McNeese and Drake, you're our only hopes. Colorado State is also in there, but that is not a single bid conference representation. Obviously, Drake and McNeese are going to get going again on Saturday. We also have a rarity here. We have every single 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed. They have all won in the first round. This is only the 6th time ever this has happened. It happened in 94, 2000, 04, 07, and 17. So we were missing some of that big time drama, some of the shock value. We did not have, your Oaklands over your Kentuckys, your Lehighs over your Dukes, go on down the line, let alone your 16s over 1s or anything like that. So for us waiting and hoping for some real madness, we didn't get it yet. The flip side of that is obviously you get the better matchups theoretically for the second round, and certainly I hope Saturday and Sunday deliver in a major way as opposed to what Thursday and Friday gave us, which we had some good moments. There's no doubt about it, but we just did not have a lot of games come down to the final 2 minutes that felt back and forth. Little bit of a bummer. In fact, I think this is just coming in from our research stuff right now, KB, with Michigan State winning the way that it did. This is actually the highest point differential by the top 4 seeds in the first round in the history of the tournament. This is going to be north of 340 points in point differential for all 1s, 2s, and 3s and 4s. So statistically, we have never had a more lopsided first round with the big boys, the top seeds, ever in the big dance. A couple more before we get into the games. Richard and Rick Pitino, they're off to the second round. It's the first time in history that a father and son are dancing in the same season with wins in the first round. Correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe this will change late, but I don't believe we had a single player hit 30 points in the first round. That's only the 3rd time that's ever happened in tournament history. It was 05, 15, and now 25. So see you again in 35, I guess. Todd Golden and Mark Pope coaching highly seeded teams. They both got their first NCAA tournament wins. And there we have it. Before we get into the I want to get rid of the blowouts first, but KB, your thoughts on what transpired Friday? Take it as specific or big picture as you want. It's great to see you, bud. Thanks for hopping on. And your thoughts through specifically Friday, but I guess big picture first round, what we've seen so far.
Yeah, good to see you tonight. And man, it's good to talk some NCAA tournament. The day wasn't exactly, maybe what could have been. We had some potential upsets, including Robert Morris, who looked really good against number 2 seed Alabama, pushed the Crimson Tide late into the second half. That was like maybe the most interesting matchup, I thought, of the day. There were some really thrilling games throughout, but bigger picture to me, I thought Alabama and Florida, what they did in their respective games today, maybe high level, the most impressive. Alabama, of course, missing Grant Nelson for most of this game. Robert Morris comes down to the wire here, ends up taking the lead late with like 7 minutes left, and Grant Nelson checks in. Kind of unexpectedly. They were dealing with some injuries. Jaron Stevenson got hurt in the first half, so end up pulling away late. So that was a good win for Alabama. And then what Florida did to Norfolk State, illegal in all other 49 states, just an absolute beatdown. And yeah, like the Gators just kind of picking up where they left off in the SEC tournament. I'm sure we'll talk big pictures on the Gators, but man, they kind of look like the best team in college basketball right now. So yeah, I'll throw it back to you. Where do you want to take this?
Let's just get the blowouts out of the way first.
Yeah.
But actually, before this, one more volley your way, KB. Listen, I love this tournament, but I assume you feel the way I do. Just I wanted 1 or 2 games. Yes, a big time upset would have been wonderful, but beyond that, I just don't feel like we got more than like 4 or 5 games that actually, from start to finish, for the most part, I was like, all right, we're really cooking here. You agree?
There, you know what, down the stretch here, and maybe this is just because we just hopped on late on Friday night, but Illinois Xavier was pretty thrilling. OU
until the final 10 minutes in real time when Will Riley buried Xavier. Yeah, it was. It actually looked like it had great potential. And then
hey, listen,
Illinois is another Big Ten team just storming into the second round.
Sounds like someone who maybe faded the Illini coming into the NCAA tournament. I'm just saying.
That did happen. I think I said it on the show, and I definitely tweeted about it. No matter what I did with Illinois, the exact opposite was going to happen. I picked against them. I picked Xavier to win. And here's Brett Underwood doing this to my bracket. There we go.
That's right. Yep. UConn OU was a pretty entertaining game as well. Defensive shootout. UConn, the back-to-back national champions, ends up escaping over the Sooners. Alex Cameron was good in the second half, had 11 second half points after it looked like maybe Dan Hurley's best path, maybe benching him. So a good win for UConn, setting up a very, very interesting second round game against, of course, the Florida Gators.
All right, let's go through these the blowouts and get those out of the way, and then we'll talk the games that actually had some interest and intrigue to them. I'll go east, then west, then south, then midwest. Duke beats Mount St. Mary's 93-49. It's the third largest win in program history in the tournament. That 44 margin. Cooper Flagg 15-7-4 in just 22 minutes. Duke could have played his bench and would have won this game. Duke is now going to play Baylor. Duke and Baylor have only met once in the tournament. That was in 2010. John Shire was on that team. That team won the national title. He had 20 points in that game. Arizona beat Akron 93-65. It is Arizona's first tournament win by 25-plus points in 22 years. Also, Arizona beat Akron on the boards by 31. It's actually the third largest rebound differential in the past 20 years in the tournament, and the best one in 13 years, period. The best in the past 20 years was the 07 Florida team. They mauled Jackson State in the first round by 42 overall. Arizona didn't have any interest in keeping it close. This was obviously a common theme throughout Thursday and Friday. You had all these established, powerful programs seeded well. I'm literally talking to you right now as Oregon appears to win 81-49. Liberty was done before this, this 2 minutes in. Oh, Liberty with a 3. Okay. 81-52. Don't think that's going to be a cover. Oh, by the way, Ducks get it done. We'll have more on them briefly later in this late night, abridged recap show. Yep. Dana Altman shaking Richie McKay's hand. And now the first round is officially done. Big Ten is officially 8-0. Elsewhere in blowouts, Florida beat Norfolk State 95-69. It was utter domination from the first minute. Robert Jones is truly a really good coach that deserves a shot at a bigger league. He did have an issue with the point spread. His team did cover the point spread, but they still got. If Florida Florida could have picked this number. If Florida wanted to win this game by 57 points, it would have won it. But and then I saw you posted. We don't have the video. We don't need to play it. But he tried to crack a joke in the postgame presser, and it seemed to have fallen flat in the room.
Crickets.
So, it's what it is. Hey, we covered. Well, you did cover. Maryland 81-49 over Grand Canyon. That's the largest tournament win in Maryland's history. 32-point margin there. Derek Queen and Julian Reese both had a double-double again. They've now done that 7 times this season. There is no duo in the entire sport that has more in-game double-doubles same time than Queen and Reese. Good on them. And then Iowa State beats Lipscomb 82-55. TJ Alselberger has 5 tournament wins. He now is the winningest NCAA tournament coach in Iowa State history. That's insane, but it is true. Josh Jefferson looked good. He had 10, 8, 8, and 8. Milan Momcilovic. This game was like tight early, and then Momcilovic had a nice little run there. He had finished with 20, and then they peeled away. Lipscomb didn't stand a chance. And then another blowout was Kentucky Hey, Kentucky fans, look at you. Beat Troy 76-57. Don't need to worry about a 14 seed this year. In fact, Kentucky fans know this well, but it wasn't just Oakland. It was also St. Peter's. And so they snap a 2-game losing streak against teams seeded 14 or worse. Mark Pope gets his first tournament win. Kentucky had 23 assists on 28 buckets. Otega Owe was awesome again. 20 points, 8 boards, 6 assists. He is the second Kentucky player with at least 28 and 6 in a tournament game since Walter McCarty in 95-96. So those are there's a couple more blowouts we'll get to, but those were happening more as we were getting ready to go live. Take it away. Any thoughts on any of those teams, any of those games? It's all you, KB.
Woo! Yeah, there's a lot there. First, I want to go to Florida.
Okay.
Just right off the top, I don't want to bury the lead. I think Florida was the story of this first round on Friday. Yes, it was against a number 16 seed Norfolk State team, but this is a Florida team that is playing at a very high level right now. Just as we talked about just a few minutes ago, they won the SEC tournament. Having watched them the last couple weeks, I think I am ready to already change my take on Florida, which is I think this is a team that's going to be playing in the national championship game. And that doesn't sound exactly like a hot take, but it feels like we're on a collision course. Florida, Duke in the national championship. I mean, this Florida team is very deep. They're experienced. They've got a deep front line. They've got athleticism. They've got shooting. They've got defense. I mean, just everything that you want in a title team. Feels a little bit like the inevitability that we had with UConn last year, and even to some extent the year before. So very, very interesting to see kind of how this shakes out, because obviously they get the back-to-back national champions in UConn in round 2. It's going to be interesting to watch how this Florida team shakes out the coming weeks. Trivia time, Matt Norlander.
Give it to me. Let's go.
Florida now has 4 30-plus win seasons in school history. Can you name the other 3 seasons? And if not, or if you can, also, how did those seasons end up?
I gotta believe this is 13-14, lost to UConn in the Final Four, and then 06-07 winning titles. Did I get it?
All right, you nailed it. That's right.
You gotta come stronger than that. I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, sometimes I gotta lob you up.
Yeah,
I got my.
You did lob me up. There we go.
You're welcome.
There you go. You're D-Wade in the photo.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. Any other thoughts on any of these blowouts?
No, I'll pass it back to you here.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. If you're a fan of any of these schools, you breathe easy. You hope you don't get picked off in the first round, and you didn't, and you got it done. And it was the theme of Friday and the theme of the first round of the tournament. Now let's take a break, and then we will go region by region. We're going to start with the West after this, but first, partners, hit me.
One of golf's elite courses, Quail Hollow, hosts the game's top players at the PGA Championship this May on CBS.
All right, let's take a tour through the regions here. UConn beats Oklahoma. We'll start with that. It was probably one of the 2 best games of Friday, I want to say. Final margin 67-59 in the 8-9 game in the West. That is the 13th straight win for UConn in the tournament. Is now tied with 91-93 Duke for the second longest streak ever. UCLA won 300 games in a row under the second greatest coach in UCLA history. They're never going to catch that mark, but they do tie Duke, and they will try and get the standalone number 2 on that list if they can get through Florida on Sunday. UConn's bench showed up well. Alex Karaban had a bad showing through the first 70% of this game, and then he was the guy that basically won the game down the stretch. I thought that was pretty big for him overall. Jeremiah Fears had some awesome moments. He was 2 of 3 from 3-point range, and the rest of the team went, I think, 1 of 14 from beyond the arc. Not good for Oklahoma. Yep. They only made 3 triples, and that tied their season low. Your thoughts on what transpired in this game in general from the Huskies? They don't follow up back-to-back championships with a one and done here. The three-peat dream is still alive, and obviously that matchup with Florida is super compelling because you have the 2 most recent back-to-back champion winners. Oh, by the way, UConn has won 6 in a row against Florida. Your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, no, I thought this was impressive resilience from UConn. Like this is what you expect from a team that has a lot of pride playing under Dan Hurley. You know, they didn't play their best game. In fact, they didn't play very well at all. And I think that's basically what Dan Hurley summed up after the game. It's like, you know, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically like we didn't play our best game. Happy that we were able to advance. We rallied in the second half when we needed to, got the defensive stops we needed to. Didn't really make shots at a very high level. I mean, Caravan, 1 of 5 from 3. Liam McNeely, 1 of 8 from 3. Solo Ball, 2 of 5. They really struggled with their shot making, but they were able to do enough defensively. They were able to limit Jeremiah Fears to only 20 points. This is obviously going to be really interesting coming into the Florida game. I think Florida's defense is going to have its way probably against this UConn team. If they continue to play the way they did today against OU on offense, this could be lopsided. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they set this up, this is a good matchup, a good test against this Gators team, but a good win for UConn on the whole.
Yeah, just getting the win. And we'll see what happens. I think there's a lot of compelling stuff about that matchup on Sunday, and we'll look ahead briefly to the Saturday, Sunday at the end of the show. Not too much here, because we're giving you a recap every night. Obviously, KB will be back on the show after Saturday's games as well. Keep it moving along. By the way, Sunday tip times are in, but I'll save that for the end as well. Colorado State beats Memphis 78-70 at 12 over 5 in the West. Multiple 12 seeds have won in the first round now in 3 of the past 4 tournaments. So we still get the 12 over 5, the most reliable thing in sports, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
No Tyrese Hunter, wasn't expected to play. Not having him hurt him. Kyan Evans went off for CSU in this one. 21 points. That's a career high. He was also, I think, 6 of 7 from 3-point range. And he played well alongside Nick Clifford, who continues to be a stud. I mean, CSU has now won 11 in a row. And in that stretch, he's averaging 21.4 points, 8.9 rebounds, and 5.2 assists. He's been tremendous. According to OptaStats, there's no Division I player this century, so the past 25 years, no one that was on a team that won at least 11 in a row has averaged at least 28 and 5 in that span. Nick Clifford's doing it right now. This is a super hot team, and they stopped Memphis from getting a win. Penny Hardaway is now with 1 win in 7 years with the Tigers, and Memphis has not reached the Sweet 16 since 2009. That's when John Calipari was there. They got a good game out of Dane Danger, 22 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks, but Colorado State was the better team, and that played out in large part as expected, just in terms of they were the better team, they were favored, they were playing hot. Memphis didn't have a Hunter. The result wasn't surprising, but CSU gets the win, an important one for the Mountain West. We got another Mountain West team that got a win on Friday that we'll get to. No Mountain West team ever seeded 8th or worse has ever made the Sweet 16, and 2 of them will go for that this weekend. Your thoughts on what Nico Medved's crew did to Penny Hardaway's Tigers?
Yeah, impressive stuff. I mean, this Colorado State team is super hot right now. The only 12 seed that was actually favored over their 5-seeded opponent coming into the first round, and rightfully so. A lot of people picked Colorado State. They were the most picked 12 seed in the CBS bracket games to beat a 5 seed, and today they showed it. Nick Clifford was good. Maybe not great. This wasn't his best stuff. He finished with 14 points. He was 0 of 6 from 3-point range, but he's been fantastic, during this Colorado State winning streak. He's shooting above 50% still from 3-point range during this run, despite missing all 6 of his threes today. Kyan Evans was great. As you mentioned, 23 points. He was 6 of 9 from 3-point range. And this Colorado State team is for real. They have a chance to go to the Sweet 16, and they played at a really high level today, obviously against the banged-up Memphis team, but impressive nonetheless from Nico Medved and the Rams there.
Yeah, they continue to roll, and that was needed for the Mountain West, just to have some teams show up and play well. Let's move to the South here. Ole Miss 71, UNC 64, a 6 over and 11. Sean Padula, 20 points, 6 boards, 5 assists, 5 turnovers, but he played well. He scored 7 of the team's final 8 points and helped nudge away after Carolina was down 20 plus in this game. And man, oh man, they made a really, really big push. The stunning stat here is Carolina loses in the first round. Trivia time.
Okay.
There we go. How many times in UNC's history has it lost in the first round?
Oh, great question. Oh,
how many times?
This is actually the 13th time it has lost in the first round.
You lose.
Want one more?
Yeah, this is actually today's loss was the 20th time it has lost in the first round.
How many?
20.
Wrong.
Just third. Lost in 99 to Weber State and 2021 to Wisconsin, which was Roy Williams's final game at UNC. You don't see the Tar Heels usually get bounced out in the first round. Meantime, Ole Miss won in the first round for the first time since 2013. But yeah, Carolina cut a 22-point deficit down to 2 in the final minute. They couldn't get it done. The ACC now goes 1-3 in the first round. Ties for the worst record ever with at least 4 teams playing games in the first round. The 2025 ACC joins the likes of the 2023 Pac-12, RIP, the 2012 Mountain West, also 1-3, and the 2000 version of Conference USA. A huge offseason for Hubert Davis awaits. Obviously, he will enter next season very much on the hot seat and needing to make the tournament at minimum, and we'll see how the framing and narrative is with Carolina by the time we get to mid-February of next year. This was an entertaining game late. I mean, that building came alive. Your thoughts on Chris Beard's team getting past Hubert Davis?
Yeah, no, I mean, credit to Carolina to even keeping this one close and making it a game late, but this was basically controlled by Ole Miss. Sean Padula was great in this one. Had 20 points. He was 2 of 4 from 3-point range. Made some big shots when he needed to late, and an end to a season for North Carolina that I think they're probably ready to move past from. Finished 23-14 on the year. Norlander though, perfect 8-2 in quad 2 opportunities on the season.
8-0. You said 8-2.
8-0 in quad 2. Excuse me. Yes,
yeah.
correct.
8-0 quad 2, undefeated. 1-13 in quad 1. It was a quad 1 opponent.
And 42nd, according to the net, in wins above bubble. So, there's some things that they can build on for next season with Hubert Davis. Absolutely.
Elsewhere in the South, New Mexico beats Marquette 75-66. Now the Mountain West has 2 teams into the second round for the 5th time in conference history. This conference dates back to 1999. This was New Mexico's first win since 2012. Donovan Dent was awesome in this game. 21 points, 6 assists, only missed 1 foul shot. And he was vintage Dent, to be honest. To me, he's like been a third-team All-American level kind of player, and he looked like it here. Really, really cool stuff. Shouts to Eli Betker, who does a good job covering the sport. He tweeted this: the Mountain West entered the day 1-25 all time as a double-digit seed in the NCAA tournament's first round, suffering 23 consecutive defeats for a double-digit seed. Today, Colorado State and New Mexico both got to the second round. Colorado State's a 12 seed. New Mexico is a 10 seed. Good on Richard Pitino. Good on the Lobos for moving on. They just look like the better team. Marquette, I say it often on this pod at this time of the year. You have these teams that have these seasons, and you look up and it's just like, oh, boom, it's over just like that. And Marquette was a team that had a lot of promise. In a 7-10 game, they're on the wrong end of it, and now, boom, Cam Jones's career, it's just over. Like, it's over abruptly, just like that. And given the way that Shaka Smart roster builds, there'll be some intriguing roster, turnover with Marquette this offseason. We'll see what happens there. Your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, Donovan Dent was awesome. I think that was the broad takeaway here. New Mexico is going to be a legit factor to go into the Sweet 16 and really actually make a real run in this NCAA tournament if Dent is going to play like that. 21 points, 6 assists. David Joplin on the other side, 28 points, but just wasn't enough for Marquette. And the Patinos, 2 Patinos going into the second round. Obviously, as you mentioned, at the top, first father-son duo to win a game in the same NCAA tournament. There are 2 Patinos still dancing in the NCAA tournament. That is double the amount of total ACC teams still dancing.
All right, one more result from the South, and then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, both of you, Nada and KB, but I believe this will have covered us entirely in the South and in the West. And that is Michigan State beating Bryant, that final, which went final after we went live, 87-62. Cohen Carr had himself one heck of a game. It wasn't just him. Jace Richardson played well. Bryant, they made us believe in the first half, which is there have been a couple of these. We're going to get to another 15-2 situation with Bobby Moe. But Phil Martelli Jr.'s team comported itself well in the first half and even early into the second half. But eventually, Sparty overwhelmed down there in Cleveland. Not much to say on this game. You got anything, KB?
Yeah, not a lot. This was close early. Michigan State pulled away late. They have just a ton of depth. It's laughable. Cohen Carr was great. Jace Richardson with 15 points. Carr had 18 points in this one. So good win for Michigan State. Not a lot to say about it.
All right, Nada, let's take one more break. After this, we're going to talk East and we will talk Midwest, all of the other relevant games and interesting stuff that played out on Friday, and then we will set the table for Saturday. But first, let's do our thing.
Guys, can you feel it? Legends were born here. History was made here. These are hallowed grounds.
Hallowed grounds?
The NCAA squad room?
Well, I wasn't talking about that, but I was talking about Augusta National.
All right. It's finally time for the Masters.
I hear it's a tradition unlike any other.
All right, let's go to the East. And by the way, the current poll question is grade the tournament so far, A, B, C, or D. What would you grade it, KB? And I'll let you go plus minus if you want to. You don't have to round it out if you don't want.
Yeah, it's a solid B minus. We haven't had any like majorly dramatic finishes, no buzzer beaters. Yeah, but it's been solid. Just not totally spectacular. What's your grade here, Norlander?
I'm a tough grader here.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't want the chalk. Get that chalk out of my face. Chalk dust torture. No, thank you. No way. I'm giving it a solid C. To me, it's a C so far. I need more buzzer beaters. Or not even shy of buzzer beaters. I need more shots that can swing games in the final 15 seconds. Yeah. We had 2 tremendous games in the first 4. Xavier versus Texas was obviously awesome, and you had St. Francis versus Alabama State. Those have been the 2 best games of the tournament so far. They really have. So yeah, give me a C overall to this point here. Live audience gives it a B. Agrees with you. 43% C, 26% A. Folks, I need to know who's voting at this tournament as an A so far. We need more chaos. This is not March Madness. It's March Midness so far. Okay, we need a little bit more. All right, and then D is 11%. Let's keep it moving here with the East. Baylor 75, Mississippi State 72. This was a good 8-9er to get the game going here. Shouts to Dave Warlock, who does a great job with the NCAA. He had a stat. He said Baylor defeats Mississippi State 75-72. That's the 16th tournament game ever to finish with that score, the most common score in tournament history. He also said, feel free to use that line as a pickup line tonight as you enjoy the rest of the games. I'm doubting any single human that read that actually did it. But there you go, 75-72, the most common score in tournament history. It was here. Baylor gets it done. No surprise. I picked this game wrong. It's the 7th straight first-round win for Baylor, by the way. They have not lost since the famous Yale 2016. How does Yale out-rebound Baylor? You know that whole thing? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Torian Prince, baby.
That's the last time Scott Drew's program lost in the first round. Mississippi State, meanwhile, it's the exact opposite. They have lost 6 straight tournament games. Mississippi State has not won in the tournament since 2008. If you're not a Mississippi State fan, you're not going to know that stat. If you are a Mississippi State fan, you very much know that stat. Chris Jans is 3 for 3 getting to the dance. Just can't get a W quite just yet. Also, Baylor, trivia time.
Okay, all right. Came prepared.
There's only 3 teams to have won a game in the past 6 tournaments. Who are they? This is not hard.
Okay, since we're on Baylor, I would say Baylor.
Correct.
There's my free space. Gonzaga.
Correct.
Is it Duke?
Loser.
Houston.
Good one.
Yeah, so Baylor shows up at least for that. It will be Baylor versus Duke, by the way. In this game, Robert Wright, 19 points, played well. Had really a breakout game. He'd kind of been slumping as of late. Langston Love also showed himself well. Thoughts on Bears Dogs?
Yeah, I didn't love the way this game ended. Claudio Harris, not Josh Hubbard, took the potential game-tying shot, missed it. Hubbard was awesome in this one. Would have been great had he been able to tie this one, or even just had a shot to potentially tie this, send it to overtime. Had 26 points. But yeah, I mean, big picture, I think it's an interesting matchup that sets Baylor against Duke. Going back to just the last couple of years doing some research, Cam Salerno, who obviously does a great job covering college hoops with us on the editorial side, did some digging and found that this weekend's game, Baylor versus Duke, could actually be the first time 2 potential top 5 picks go against each other. Of course, Cooper Flagg for Duke, VJ Edgecombe for Baylor. Really excited for that matchup. Edgecombe has been phenomenal down the stretch run of the season for Baylor, and they're going to need him to step up in a big way if the Bears are going to be able to have any fighting chance against the Blue Devils.
Better chance of having a close game, Duke Baylor or UConn Florida?
UConn Florida. UConn, Florida. I think it could be close. That actually could be a game where we look up and it's like 63-55 with 6 minutes to play or something.
We'll
I
see.
don't think that's possible.
Florida's on an insane tear.
There.
But we'll see. I'm excited to see if either of them can keep it close. Elsewhere in the East, Alabama beats Bobby Moe, Robert Morris, 90-81. For about, I don't know, 25 minutes of real time. I wanted to believe, and this is a guy who's got Bama in the Final Four. I don't care. Give me a 15 winning every single time. Absolutely. Didn't come through. Credit to Andy Toole and his team for showing up. Marion Dickerson, he was one of the 5 most enjoyable players to watch through the first round of the tournament. He had 25 points, 9 rebounds, 2 blocks, one of which was just an emphatic rejection. He had no turnovers. He's only one of, again, 25 points, 9 boards, 2 blocks, 0 turnovers. Shouts to our CBS Sports research team. He's only one of 5 players to do that in the last 30 tournaments. He played really, really well. Mark Sears also played well. 22 points, 5 boards, 10 assists. He's the first SEC player to go 20, 10, and 5 ever in a tournament game. First SEC player. And he had 19 points in the second half to guide him. Also, Cliff Amore had his best game in an Alabama uniform, and they needed that because this game was 65-64 in favor of Robert Morris with 7:10 to go. We really thought that Friday could take off with this game. It didn't happen. Bama went on a 26-16 run to close it out. And Bama has now had 19 games this season with 19 plus points. That's the most in the SEC since Arkansas won the title in 93-94. Give me your thoughts on what we saw in Cleveland between the Tide and the Colonials.
Yeah, it was like Alabama was not ready to completely flip the switch until it was like in complete crisis mode in the second half. I mean, Robert Morris, credit to them, man. They played very, very well. Amarian Dickerson, as you mentioned, 25 points, ended up fouling out. But yeah, just one of the best performances of the tournament that we saw so far in this first weekend. Ended up fouling out and just laid it all out there, crying on the bench there. But yeah, this was for Alabama. You know, they end up trailing in the second half. Sears finally comes alive, scores 19 points in the second half, finishes with 22 in the game. Grant Nelson ended up playing after missing the entire first half and most of the second half.
I think Oates kind of panic put him in. He was like, we can't mess around with this anymore. Get in there, Grant. And
it actually post game, Oates kind of talked about it a little bit, but basically said like, hey, look, I think the game was like 66-64, somewhere around there. Alabama was up. And at that point, it was like, I think, they were starting to feel the tension a little bit. And Oates said that he looked down at the bench and Grant Nelson basically like waved his hand like, coach, put me in. If this season's going to end, I'm going to be riding down with the ship. And, he actually gave him some good minutes, a couple good rebounds and, some energy off the bench. And that's kind of what they needed. Just a little bit of pop, a little bit of juice off the bench to kind of get the final push. And, I think Oates actually said like Nelson's going to need like a ton of rehab the next couple of days just to make sure that he's able to play in the second round. But, considering he did play, I would imagine he will be effective to some extent in the second round. But yeah, this was a definite scare from Bobby Morris. A good win for Alabama. Ended up pulling it out in the end.
2 more in the East. One, Oregon trounces Liberty. Dana Altman has never lost at Oregon in the first round. He's 8-0 in those circumstances. So the Ducks move along and they'll play Arizona. We get the Pac-12 rematch. We can move on from that. Vandy beats St. Mary's. This was a good game. I missed a lot of the final 2.5 of this in real time because Ryan Odom is going to be announced as the coach at Virginia on Saturday. So I was dealing with texts and phone calls as this was happening. But my boys watched it and they were all very excited because they both took St. Mary's to beat Vandy, and that's what wound up happening there. St. Mary's only had a 22-point first half. It came back. Both these teams, by the way, shot exactly 22 of 55 from the field. That's good for 40% overall. St. Mary's gets it done a little better from 3. Mitchell Saxon had himself a nice game. And, yeah, pretty key for the Gales. They overcame a 12-point deficit in the second half to do this. Jordan Ross played well. Augustus Marcialonis had a couple of really key shots that pushed him there. St. Mary's is the first WCC team to win a tournament game without getting to 60 since San Francisco in 1958. That's courtesy of our great CBS Sports Research team. That's big stuff. And now it sets up a fascinating matchup with Bama because Alabama can't stop scoring 90, and St. Mary's hasn't had a team drop 90 on it in 5+ years. So that'll be intriguing. This was a good game. Vanderbilt had a nice season under Byington year one. Faded late, got into the tournament, and was booted by a good Gales team. Your thoughts?
Yeah, 4 Gales in double figures. Really impressive. Come from behind win for St. Mary's. Vanderbilt ended up building a lead in the second half to as many as 12 points, but that completely evaporated within like an 8-minute span. St. Mary's just completely flipped the switch, and man, their defense. When St. Mary's is playing defense, it is a sight to behold. And Vanderbilt just was in absolute hell in the second half trying to score on offense. And this was really impressive. I thought what I saw from St. Mary's today. Of course, Mark Byington, the first-year coach you mentioned, said after the game, like, this is a great opportunity. It's always one team is leaving feeling jubilation or excitement, but we're feeling hurt right now. We're on the side of feeling hurt, and that's the side of every losing team in the NCAA tournament. But yeah, this just you lose a 12-point lead in the second half. Vanderbilt's got to be kicking themselves with just a missed opportunity to advance the NCAA tournament. Meanwhile, at St. Mary's, within a game of its second ever Sweet 16 under Randy Bennett. Last time they did it, 2010.
Good deal. I've got one more game to talk about. Nada's just sent a good note. Nada, do not let me forget to say that note at the end of the show. Midwest Illinois, 86, Xavier 73. Will Riley, he single-handedly was like, we're done here. 22 points, 8 of 11 from three-point range. Illinois was better than 1.20 points per possession, exactly 1.21. They shot 40% from 3, 57% from 2. And man, this was a fun, tight game until we hit about, I think, the 8-minute mark. Illinois gets it done. They were 18 of 18 from the foul line. It's the third most free throw attempts without a miss in the history of the tournament. They just showed up. They were ready. And because Illinois X'd X and because Ole Miss booted UNC, that means only the third time since the first 4 started in 2011 that we don't have a team that made the first 4 get into the second round. The most recent time this happened was 2019. Looking ahead, Illinois will play Kentucky. That game could be anything. That game could be triple overtime game of the year, or it could be one of these teams blows the other one out by 23 points. No idea what to expect from it. And you know what? That's exactly what I want. Kentucky is 4-0 against Illinois all time in the tournament. And 3 of the 4 meetings have been decided by 3 or fewer points. That bodes well. But Kentucky has not faced Illinois since well before Kyle Boone was born. They last met in the Big Dance in 1984. Any thoughts on what transpired there? That game was in Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's right. Will Riley put on a show, 22 points. Kasper Jonas was 16, 10, and 9, just completely in control for Illinois. Norlander, you ready to change your stance on Illinois, or do you feel like this game was okay? All right.
My stance has always been this team is capable of all sorts of outcomes.
Extremely volatile. Absolutely.
Extremely volatile. Yep.
Yeah, but I thought today was a pretty good showing. We've seen some highs from this Illinois team, but we've absolutely seen some lows. Very, very tough to erase some of the losses and the way in which they took some of these losses earlier in the regular season. Totally get it. I had Illinois going into the Elite Eight in my bracket. Feel a little bit better about it today, but yeah, it's just again, you never know what you're going to get from this Illinois team. But today was very, very encouraging if you're an Illini fan.
Yeah, that was a heck of a watch if you're all into that. I'm scanning through the bracket here. I believe we touched on every single game as promised. We went longer than I thought, but that's okay. A couple more minutes, then we'll wrap the show here. Nada just sent in a little nugget here. This comes from .com headquarters. Only 26 perfect brackets are left at CBS Sports, and we have had more bracket submissions this year than in any year in cbssports.com/CBS Sports App history. If you're perfect through now, that's actually maybe that number is a little bit smaller than you'd expect because there's a lot of chalk and people tend to pick chalk. So that's actually smaller than I might have guessed overall. Here is your schedule for Saturday, and I just got the tip times for Sunday. I'll get to those too before we wrap up here. This is going to be chronological order on Saturday. I will be driving back to Providence in the morning. I will be on site. McNeese versus Purdue at 12:10 on CBS. That will be followed by Arkansas St. John's approximately 2:40 on CBS from Providence. I have a column up on both those programs. I have a column up on Will Wade right now, and I've got a column on John Calipari and Rick Pitino. The fact that we are getting these two going against each other is incredible. I'm very excited to be on hand there to witness it and see what goes down. Then we've got Michigan versus A&M at 5:15 Eastern on CBS. That game is in the South region. We've got Drake versus Texas Tech. That game is in the West, I believe. That's at 6:10 on TNT. Creighton versus Auburn in the South is 7:10 on TBS. BYU plays Wisconsin. That game is in the East at 7:45 on CBS. Gonzaga against Houston. Oh boy, what a matchup. 8:40 on TNT. That game obviously being in the Midwest. And then UCLA against Tennessee, also in the Midwest. That is the last tip of the day out of Lexington. That'll be at 9:40 on TBS. KB, everyone's looking forward to Arkansas St. John's. Aside from that, what matchup are you most looking forward to on Saturday?
Oh man, yeah, Saturday is absolutely loaded.
This slate is incredible. You don't get the upsets, but I'm looking at this is just a stacked Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, like, how do you not be just like romantic about Pitino versus Calipari and Arkansas and St. John? That's gonna be a really fun one. I'm actually looking forward to Saturday evening. Drake versus Texas Tech. Drake is the 11 seed here against the number 3 seed Red Raiders. Texas Tech. Right now, I'm looking at the odds. Texas Tech favored by 6.5. I don't know if we're going to get Chance McMillian back, but he missed that first round game. He's super crucial to what they do on offense. Obviously, they've got a ton of shot making and stars around that team, including JT Toppin. But yeah, that's an interesting one where D2 Drake going to the Sweet 16. That is very, very much in play. I'm excited for that one. That's probably the one that I have circled. Of course, maybe just behind Houston Gonzaga. That's
Houston Gonzaga. Yeah, that's got to be it. That's just incredible. I mean, that is a Final Four level game in terms of predictive metrics. If you want to say practically more, maybe Sweet 16 or dare I say Elite 8, I'd buy it. A lot of the stuff is good. I think McNeese can give Purdue a real push here. They're more athletic. We'll see if they can keep the turnovers down. The idea of Will Wade making the Sweet 16 and then making NC State fans wait even more, and then be like, we have him, right? He hasn't signed he's coming. Tell us he's coming. That would be incredible to me. I'd love to see that. But yeah, across the board, we have wonderful stuff. Here are the tip times. If you're watching live and you haven't checked it out, these are your tip times for Sunday, second round. To no surprise, UConn, Florida. Yes, UConn, even with one of the last tips, it will tip first on Sunday, 12:10 Eastern, CBS out of Raleigh. UConn, Florida will be the first game standalone, and we get Baylor Duke standalone, approximately 2:40 Eastern on CBS. Out of Raleigh. Then that will be followed out of Milwaukee, 5:15 on CBS. Illinois against Kentucky. Bing, bang, boom, man. There's those 3 games are standalone for a reason. And then Illinois, Kentucky won't be standalone for all of it, because then at 6:10, you'll have St. Mary's and Bama out of Cleveland on TNT. An hour after that at 7:10 Eastern on TBS from Seattle, Colorado State and Maryland. At 7:45 approximately on True TV, you get Ole Miss and Iowa State out of Milwaukee. Cleveland will get New Mexico and Sparty at 8:40 Eastern on TNT on Sunday night. And the last game of the weekend, tasty, Seattle, Pac-12 flavor, TBS, 9:40 Eastern, Oregon versus Arizona. That is your Saturday and Sunday slate. Anything else before we wrap up this overnight pod, KB?
No, nothing else. I will. I'm going to leave you here with one final question. I want you to rank the number 1 seed teams for the second round, and which number 1 seed is most likely to at least get a real push, if not be upset, because I know we haven't gotten a lot of.
Gotta be Houston, buddy.
Yeah,
they play by far the best team.
Yeah,
by far.
Houston Gonzaga. That's probably the one to watch.
They play by far the best team. We'll see what goes on there, and we'll see what. We'll see if Houston can really come correct here, because if they don't, Gonzaga's come on now. Houston is 2 at Ken Palm right now. Gonzaga is 8. So we'll see on that. It should be tremendous. I'll be on site in Providence on Saturday, and then I will be in studio for CBS Sports HQ all of Sunday. So do tune into that. Highlights throughout, and then I'll be back on the pod Sunday night to recap, probably or maybe even a little bit earlier than we started here on a Friday night. So appreciate everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to give you recaps and reaction shows after every single round. 45 minutes. I was trying to get out sooner, but there was a ton of games. What do you want from me? Thank you to everyone. We will see you in less than 24 hours. Here is to an incredible second. Let's speak it into existence. Madness, not midness. Second round. Let's go. Talk to you tomorrow.